Hey, 1 2 1 2. Here we go. It's my time to rise. It's my time to shine. It's my time to live. It's my time to fly. It's my time. It's my time. I can see it. I can feel it. Time has come now to reveal it. I've been waiting for a long time. Gotta do it. And won't let nothing hold me down. Gotta do it. Because I may not get another chance. I believe it. If I want it, I can have it. I believe it. Done with falling, done with losing. I can do it. I think I'll tell myself again. I can do it. Yeah. And I'm not gonna stop till I win. 'Cause it's my time to rise. Hey. It's my time to shine. Oh. It's my time to live. It's my time to live. It's my time to fly. Oh. It's my time. It's my time. She's a diva, yeah. She's a diva full of drama. Don't believe her.
What that looks like and how we're going to be able to deal with other people going forward. Because sometimes it's really not about what he or she did, but how we decide to react or respond to it. And so sometimes, you got to take it such as it is. Other times you got to let them know we're not doing this. And Dominique is over here talking about that she's hungry.
Little irritable.
And she is slightly irritable.
My Facebook friends know. Everybody know.
And so
I'm not nice.
we're going to pray for her.
Amen.
Because we're going to have an awesome show.
We is. I just wanted to prove to you I can be on time for something, so I didn't have a chance to stop and grab me something. Now, if you wouldn't have said that comment, I'd have stopped and grabbed me something. But you see, you said it, and now I'm here.
This is what I deal with
So
when I have
you turn
this
mine
young
down.
lady on my show. There is never a dull moment
Just
with
a little bit.
Dominique.
Mine just seemed loud, Lord.
Yeah, I think all of them got a little loud.
Oh, that one's mine. Turn that one down.
Whew.
A little bit further.
You was talking a little loud there, sis.
I know, it was loud. And I'm already loud. I don't need no help. Hey, y'all, we're going to be talking about relationships.
We're going to be talking about relationships now. This ought to be interesting, so I'm going to suggest that you either get your glass of wine, that you get your popcorn, that you get your snack, because these two that are with me today seem to be a little bit live. So we're going to take it from there.
No, Daryl started it today. I came in cool. Daryl started it today.
Okay, we getting ready to get started. Yes, Miss J. Quee, whenever you're ready. Hey, this is Michelle with another one of our shows, Girl Talk, Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen. So, last week we talked about all things relationship. And this week we're going to finish that conversation because I have to be honest, guys, I didn't think last week was talking about friendships was going to be that in depth. I have to be real honest about that. I didn't think we were going to get that deep into it. But it started out, and I just want really you guys to take a second and introduce yourself just in case somebody's on that does not know you guys, not like you haven't been on the show before. But I'm going to start gentlemen first.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to start with Daryl first. So, Daryl, I want you to introduce yourself. And I also want to talk about what you got coming up with the Cosmos.
Hey everybody, this is Daryl again, Daryl Bledsoe. What I have going on with Cosmo, if you didn't know, I am the president of the Cosmo Night Scholarship Fund. And if you don't know anything about Cosmo Nights is actually one of the oldest, if not the oldest, black social club in the United States. I'm pretty sure in the Midwest we are the oldest. Started in 1949, group of brothers. And since then, of course, it's evolved in its membership. We have a lot of great brothers as well as some wonderful sisters that are members of the club. But one thing that has always been a big piece of it is the philanthropic arm of it. So we've done, over the history, Cosmo Nights has done over $500,000 in giving to the community of Indianapolis between YMCA memberships, sickle cell scholarship towards young high school students that are going into college, so on and so forth. So right now it's just been a thing that we've just been kind of doing a rebranding, trying to get that back going and get ourselves back in the community. So one big thing we do have coming up, we always use Party with a Purpose. One thing we can always use for that. So December 22nd at 3338 North Illinois, come and join us for our Ugly Sweater Christmas party. It's going to be fun. Just a $5 donation. And just come in, have a good time, laugh, and talk with your people. But we're definitely just excited about the work that we're getting done with all the great brothers that are there, the members of the Cosmo Nights. So, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all I got going on besides a lot of other random stuff some stuff we can't talk about yet. We're still working on it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll switch over here to this young lady right here.
Hey y'all, I have crashed Michelle's show a few times, and she keeps letting me back. So she likes my shenanigans, whether she want to admit it or not. I'm Dominique with Unapologetically Dominique, and yes, I'm here to crash again. I'll behave this time, kind of, maybe not, but anyways, okay.
Okay, so those are the ones that are going to be sharing the mic with me today. So last week we talked specifically about friendship. What entails a friend? How does that look like? Well, as everyone knows, your first relationship really involves your family. That's who you have your initial introduction to what relationships are supposed to look like, whether they're healthy or whether they're not healthy. Then that's pretty much what it looks like. And so one of the things that you guys know about me is I'm pretty transparent. I'm pretty transparent in the things that I share, and not to mention the book that I put out. I'm pretty transparent about my family and all that entails. But with the two guests that I have here today, take a minute and think about your relationships family-wise. Now, I know mine is interesting. As I told you, I'm the baby girl. So, there's some things I get away with, but my mama don't let me get too far. Because she's got that snatch back anointing, don't she, Daryl? Mm-hmm. She got that snatch back anointing. And she'll and you don't even have to be her child. You don't even have to be related to her.
Michelle, your light's bright. I just wanted to say that and get that out in the atmosphere. It's
that's
bright.
That's what the iPhone will do for you.
It's bright.
The light's bright. So tell me about you guys' family relationships. What have you learned that you take into other relationships?
I learned that I have family. Okay, I have a big family, but then I have this close circle where we are all really close. And that close circle at times, they can, I don't know, some of the things that they say can hurt your feelings, but they really are there. They are really there. So sometimes, it's just all in love. And I know that they will always be there. And I know that I can count on them. So the other really parts of my family that's not in that close circle is kind of like, see y'all at the family gathering. Hey y'all, see y'all, what's up? Hey cousin, hey cousin, what's up? We can maybe do drinks. Oh, not really. Hey, what's up? Okay, but that close knit circle, they do their best to keep poor Dominique in line, and anybody that knows me knows that that's not an easy job at all.
Not an easy job.
Yeah, I just have that close knit circle thing, and that's kind of how I do it. So.
Okay. Daryl.
Family for me. I mean, I would say it's good. I mean, I don't, just like with, people we call our friends, family, there's, on my dad's side, a lot of my cousins, not all of them, but a lot of us are kind of raised together and reared around each other. So more or less, some of us are closer to each other than others. But overall, I think we're good. I got my aunties and got my dad. My mother's side of the family, kind of the same thing. I think, like I said, family is family. You get it, if you're like mine, you get a hodgepodge of everything.
Well.
So, and honestly, I think that's actually pretty dope. I think it's cool, though. Honestly, because it's helped develop some things in me as a man now that I didn't understand being younger, that I understand now.
Okay.
And it's given me some clarity on things as far as just dealing with different people or learning to understand different people as far as, different walks of our life or different things that we all go through or that we may try or get into, whatever the case may be. So, my family's my family. I love them. I'll go to war over them. I think that's really about it. It's not too involved, too much to say about that.
Well, for me, I look at a lot of things that we as a family go through. Because we can have the family that we were born into, and that's pretty much talks about our first relationships, what those look like, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is what it is. And for me, growing up, I grew up in a two-parent household where my mom and dad were both very active in my life. I grew up with my grandfather, J.T. Wynn, and he was a character. He was a character, but there are certain things that you grow used to growing up. So for me, after my dad retired, coming home from school, it was a norm to see my granddad and my dad sitting in the living room playing dad.
Yeah.
And they would sit in there for hours upon hours playing dad and talking. And so that became a staple. And literally, I learned how to play dad watching them. Nobody actually taught me. I learned watching them.
I just learned how to play that game.
And I sit back and I sometimes talk to people and they talk about how they didn't have grandparents growing up and that it was just them. And even though my grandmother did not play a huge part in my upbringing, she was there in the background, but she didn't play a huge part. Because my grandfather was the one, if you had to go to the doctor and wasn't nobody else available, Granddad was coming to pick you up. Now, you might have had to put on your seatbelt, the seatbelt behind you, the seatbelt in somebody else's
Don't do Grandpa like that.
Hey.
But he got you there and he got you back. Now, he might have had an accident after he dropped you off,
Oh, Father
but he
God.
didn't have one while you was in the car with him. And when he passed away, that was almost like a legacy for me. That was gone. Because he died after my dad, but it was one of those things where I learned from those two men what a man is supposed to do and how a man is supposed to treat a woman. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we learn based off of that first set of relationships that we have, and it helps mold us and build us into the people that we are today. Now, I'm always talking about the moms. Y'all hear me talking about my moms all the time. And we were just there for Thanksgiving. And just to see her around everybody and so much joy that it brings to her to have the whole family there. And then my nephew crashed the party. Nobody knew he was going to be there. That was something awesome. Had my mom in tears. Had my brother in tears. So, but it was really good to be able to see that. But those are good days, because then you have some of those days that are not so good.
Mm-hmm.
When you got to deal. I was watching Jada Pinkett Smith Red Table Talk, And one of the things that she was doing, she did a show with her brother, and they were talking about forgiveness. And they had different mothers, but they had the same father. And they were raised on two different coasts, one East Coast, one West Coast. And the father had a very hard life with drugs. He was addicted to drugs. And there was something that Jada had said that changed the, hey Marie, that changed the tide for her. And what she said was this. She said, right, wrong, or indifferent. However my dad was, that was how he was. But I had to learn and accept the fact that he was not created to be my dad. He had a whole journey that he had to go on himself that was called life. And that he just happened to make a stop along the way that created me and that created my brother. And so the choices that he made were based upon the journey that he was taking himself on. It didn't necessarily mean it was the journey that he was divinely purposed to take, but it was the journey that he was on. And I think sometimes we go back to those expectations of what we had talked about before, those dreaded expectations that we have of people. And we have to really begin to look at and to think about what that looks like. You know, we can have expectations of everything that's going on and everything that needs to go on in our lives and the people that we have in our lives and all of that. But take a minute to stop and think. The decision that they made, even though it may have affected you in some way, did they really have to take you into consideration when they made that choice?
I understand what you're saying. I do feel a little different about when you do become a parent. I do feel like that does need to be taken into consideration, because I feel like as a parent, you're packing that child's bag for life. And a lot of what you put into it is very important.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that.
It's a challenge, though, because what I understand now, I didn't understand then. So there's always challenges, right? And I know, don't want to discount or discredit what anyone may have gone through, which can be some very traumatic things within their family, as far as the child. I think for me, for just growing up and, like I said, the things we had, the challenges we had, be it my mom or my dad or anything like that, I think just getting to this space now and understanding a lot of things, there's no manual.
No, none whatsoever.
No,
And
there's nothing there for it. And I'm not saying it because I know some people, who have very, very, very fractured relationships with their parents. And some of them is at a stage where they're just not going to repair it. And I get it, Everybody's not me. And what I mean by that is as far as how, you look at things or whatever. And I just got here to this space, really. But I get it. But one thing's for certain, with the traumas and everything, there's no book. There's nothing there. There's not a blueprint. And I think, with parents, there is an automatic command, I think, that has to come with that says, what we need to do or what a parent should do when it comes to their child, as far as, putting them first and making sure they, learn about life and teach them the best you can with that, everything else like that. I just, I know there's not a manual. So a lot what we learned, or what I seen, I understood for myself, just in my relationship with my parents, that my mom did the best she could with what she knew. My dad, through all his issues and struggles, did the best he could with what he knew. I'm grateful to God now, and I consider myself tremendously blessed at this stage in my life now, with a whole life ahead of me, to still have my parents and us to have that relationship now. We do talk about a lot of different things. And even to me, sometimes going to them for advice. I don't have any children. I got nephews. But, just, some things that I'm able to talk to both of them about. So I know there's some challenges, though. And I know that can happen in family relationships. And there's some very, very, very horrible, traumatic things that have happened within households around our parents or around our aunties and uncles or grandparents, or whatever the case may have been. That's not everybody's story, but I understand that that's a real thing out there. Family thing, more than anything, what I would love to see for everybody, especially in this day and age, is us just to be more responsible about what it is that we're doing when it comes to our family. Be more responsible with our speech. Be more responsible with the fact that if you do bring a human being to this world, you know, that you are, you know, making sure you're doing what you can to be there and be there correctly. Use your village, you know, those different things like that. Just be responsible. Because, you know, none of us asked to be here, but we're here. And those children that you're going to have didn't ask to be here, but they're here. So, you know, be responsible and understand what you do have, that charge that's on you. Because for whatever reason, God gave them to you. So, do your best to do right by them.
You sound like over here. I see hearing a whole bunch of
No.
huffing and humming and
No,
humming
I actually really agree with a lot of what he said. Me and my dad, I've spoke about it a lot. Me and my dad, we've had a lot of, it's been a lot of issues there, and it's we're actually in the stage of where you know, the forgiveness has taken place, but it's still, the part I'm at is I have to train him how to treat me. So there are certain things, okay, if you're going to act like that, I can't talk to you. You know, we need to talk later. I'm going to holler at you later, you know, that type of thing. So, I agree 100%. You know, I've made plenty of mistakes. You know, I can't expect perfection from my parents when I can't give perfection myself. So, I do understand that completely. I just feel like some things are just damn near common sense. I mean, that's just honestly how I feel about it. I feel like some things are just damn near common sense, and that's just how I feel about it. So,
Okay, well, I'm not one to say that I have the perfect relationship with my kids, because I would be lying. But one of the things that I say, at the time, I did what I thought was right. Whether anybody thought it was right or not, I thought it was right. And I thought, based on the situation that I was in, that was the best choice at that moment. If I had it to do over again, would I make a different choice? There's a possibility, depending on what the circumstances are. But one of the things that I say now to my adult children and anyone that is of their generation that may come back and say whatever, is to do a better job with yours than I did with you. I didn't know everything. And that's the dreaded truth to the matter. We don't know everything. And it was like Girlz said, there was no manual that popped out before you came that said, at age such and such, this is what they're going to do. And at age such and such, this is what's going to happen. At age such and such, that's going to happen. So you need to handle it this way and that way. And so even though I'm a daddy's girl, had a wonderful relationship with my dad, I felt like an outcast where the females in my family came, because I did not feel like I fit in. So everything that they had to offer me, I could not accept it or receive it, because I never felt like I fitted in. And so it goes back to that self-esteem and that self-value that the parents have towards themselves that determines what they're able to give out.
I agree with a lot of what you're saying.
Hold that thought.
Okay, we're going to go to
commercial because we're about to get deep into that. So we're going to take a commercial here. This is Michelle with Girls Talk Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen. Hey! Now, is this Keith or is this Omar?
Oh, Lord. Can we get Keith? We don't need Omar today.
Omar.
We don't need Omar today at all.
So today we're talking about the second part of relationships. So we're basically focusing in on familial and romantic relationships. And one of the reasons why I felt that this was very important that we do this topic is because this is the time of year when families normally come together, where we do things as a family unit. We give presents, we spend time together. And I don't think sometimes we have those necessary conversations to clear up things. We don't clear up the things that we need to clear up. And you never know, someone could be harboring unforgiveness or resentfulness towards you, and you never know until there's a blow up, or until someone says something and you
I need
have
a
to go
pen.
back and you have to say, now what you say that for?
Lady J, you got a pen?
So one of the things I think that you really have to look at is where you are. Where are you in the gist
It's
of
okay. I
this?
think
How
it's
does
okay.
this work out in your life and in your family?
Thank you. It's okay.
So that was one of the reasons why I decided to do the second part of the show, because last year we wore friendships out. I don't think there was anything else left for us to say about friendships. But
Y'all looking at Daryl
I do have
right
this
now,
one thing.
because I got to write down my
because,
points so I forget.
There was something you said, Daryl, that if you look at your friends, then it will identify what type of individual that you are.
Yeah.
But I've got some people in my life that I don't know if I necessarily call them friends, but every so often I am around them. And they still got some growing to do. They're not necessarily where I am. So
You ain't got to talk about me, Michelle. I'm right here.
I mean, we got associates. I understand
Okay,
that,
okay,
but, I
okay.
mean, the people I call my friends are people that I look at, like I said, that set those different things, those standards for what it is that I want in my life, whatever it is I want to accomplish. So they're talking that same language. I consider them my friends.
mhm.
I got associates, yeah, all day long that have growing to do. And I'm sure somebody will look at me and say, "You got a lot of growing to do." Whatever. My friends are, for me. That's why I use people's friends as a judge of character. And what I mean by that is when you say someone's your friend, I guess that goes down to my personal definition of what a friend is. I watch that because a lot of people will call people friends, and some of the ones they call them friends, it helps me identify a lot about them. And so I don't know. Family, you can't count like that.
No, you can't.
You
Because you
can't
get a
count family.
hodgepodge.
You get a little bit of everything with your family. I mean, it could be from the extreme of kleptos to
Drug addicts, alcoholics,
Alcoholics.
You get everything, and that's
to that funny uncle.
Yeah,
I think I'm in a category by myself. Me.
yeah.
Me and my
But everybody
shenanigans.
got that one family member, you invite over to the house, but are you that one you hope don't come to the barbecue?
I'm not that one. I'm not that one. I'm not that one.
Like, dang, they here. And everybody start acting different, or whatever this is. So, I mean, family, you can't judge character off. You really can't. You just can't. I mean, everybody got families a little bit of everything.
They're
So,
snacking on.
I don't know.
I think too, and I'm gonna put the light on you, Dominique.
Uh-oh.
I
Wow.
think too that we also
Here it
have to
goes.
think about situations that we cannot control.
You can't control family.
You cannot control family up under. You might think you
can't
can,
control
but
family.
it will prove itself
You can't
time and
control
time again.
I can't control you, but I can control how I deal with you.
There
And
you
I can
go.
control
Yeah.
how I let you in my space. That's
Okay,
me.
okay.
I can control how I deal with you and how I let you in my space. Because if you're going to get me out of character, I don't need to be around you. So I can deal with that.
Period, though. If it's gonna play out your character, it doesn't need to be around you. You don't need to be around it.
16 seconds.
Okay.
So-
I think too, we also have to think about where we are. Because some of us, the struggle that we went through in our families coming up is why we have the purpose that we have in our lives now.
True.
And I don't think we really think about that.
That's true. That's true.
This is Michelle back again with Girls Talk Real Talk, because when girls talk, just about anything can happen.
And a man talk.
And I was getting ready to say
I mean,
that.
you gotta get a different intro when I come on here.
Daryl felt that. Look,
Hey,
he
Yolanda,
felt
he
that.
felt some kind of way behind the Girls Talk Real Talk. Because we do have men that come on the show, and we do allow them to have a voice as well, because you know
We
what?
have to work on the special intro for when we get a man in here.
Okay, you come up with that, and then you come back and talk to me about it, okay?
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll give you
He's
that.
really going to come up with
He
it,
will.
too. He's going to come
I'm
up with
trusting
it.
that he will.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking about family relationships, and there was one part during the break that we had talked about that we cannot control family. Family is who family is. But like Dominique said, we can control how we respond or react to the shenanigans of the family. And so, you know, we all know we've got those individuals in our family, like Girl said, that when they show, we pray they don't show up to the family gathering. But when they do show up, hey Denise, one of the things that we have to remind ourselves is we're not going to let them take us there. We're going to let them be where they are.
Hey.
Amen.
You do you and I'ma do me. There it is.
There it is. There it is in a nutshell.
That
but
is that.
Dominique, you had something you wanted to say right before we went on.
I did, and I had to write it down, y'all, because I was not gonna forget. Yes, I was not gonna forget. You were talking about your daughters, and you know, as far as not being the perfect parent, and I feel like that conversation shows a lot of growth in itself. I feel like me and my mom, we have had to have a conversation of things that have happened, you know, with me being, you know, in my childhood, things that I felt, different things like that. And some things she did have to apologize for. And I had no choice but to respect her for it. Now, the difference is between my parents is where one can kind of say, okay, I respect that I did that. Okay, that shows me growth. That shows me that you're human and you messed up and you apologize. You did the best you could, whatever. There's that other side that just is no accountability, period. And that's where I have the issue.
That's huge.
Well,
That's where I have the issue.
That's
so
huge.
I do feel like having that conversation is not easy. You don't want to hear about, you know, even if you did do the best you can, you don't want to hear about where you failed your children. I mean, that's just, I'm not a parent, but even I know that that's not an easy conversation to have.
It's not
And
an
as a
easy.
child, I don't want my parent to have to keep, because I've had that conversation with my parents, okay, and we've, you know, apologies and everything else like that, but I refuse at my young 38 years of age to keep having to make my mom or my dad keep apologizing for whatever it was in the past, right? That's just me, though. I'm not, there's no judgment, no condemnation on anybody. I understand my situation is different with that. But like you said, that's not an easy one. Because I know it's hard. I know for me as a child to hear it from my parents is hard. Because in another part of my life, you know, I had children in my life. Won't go into that. But a lot that, you know, I may have been upset about, some of the things that I was upset about, I understood. And we had those conversations. I had those conversations with my parents. And at this stage in my life now, I think, you know, and I can only speak, like I said, I'm only speaking for my family. Like I said, I'm not doing it to denigrate or, you know, isolate someone in their situation. For my brother and my sister and myself, I think we turned out okay. I think we turned out pretty good. And what I mean by that, we damaged individuals on some level, I'm sure, on some things, but overall, I think we turned out pretty good. We got some pretty, you know, healthy careers and doing pretty okay in life and handling our business. You know, there's a lot that we could be and we should be given circumstances that we went through as children, but we're not. And so for that, you know, with those conversations, they're not easy. I know they're not. It's hard to hear. It's hard as a child to hear, and I can only imagine what it's like for a parent to have to do that. But with that, and it goes back to what I was saying about the responsibility thing with that, making sure we're responsible for that. If we messed up, repair those things. Moms, dads, repair them. Aunties, uncles, repair them. There's nothing worse than anybody. I mean, that's the one thing everybody tells us all the time, you know, be accountable for what it is that you are, what you did, or, you know, what you say, you know. So don't go through life as if you just lived this. I always crack a joke about that. You know, I was saved from the womb. We never did nothing wrong. But the reality of it is we did. So, you know, I think that's the biggest thing, I think, with that, with family. I think you had mentioned it before about Jada with the forgiveness piece. Mm-hmm. It's tough, and it's a hard conversation. Everybody's not going to be able to get there, unfortunately. But, you know you screwed up, own up to that. Don't leave the child or that person out here with this thing of thinking like, okay, whatever. And that's just them on their own, whatever the case is. That's horrible. That's just totally irresponsible. And that's my opinion.
That personal.
You can at me about that.
To me, the hardest part about forgiving my father was that he would not acknowledge it. And it had to come to a point of where, you know, I had to not get over it, but I had to forgive him anyways.
Well, I mean, let me jump in here. And this is one of the things that I think is so paramount and so very important. When we give forgiveness, it is not for the person. Mm-hmm. It is not for the person who is receiving it. It is for you to release you from the hold and the damage that unforgiveness is doing in your life. It is meant to help you get to the next season or the next level, the next dimension that you are going into. My thing is, and I've said this before, and people have a problem with it, but that's okay. I don't have a problem with somebody having a problem with it. I don't live my life with regrets.
No.
I don't live my life with regrets. Because if I live my life with regrets, then I'm constantly worried about what I did. And I'm not able to move forward into what is awaiting me.
Okay.
Even in the mistakes that I've made with my own children, I've apologized. And I've done my best to make things as right as I possibly can. But one thing that we have to understand as adults, whether we're, and I'm an adult child to my mother, and I've got adult children under me. And one of the things that I always say is, you have the ability to accept or to reject my apology. It's totally up to you. But what I won't do is keep apologizing for what I've already apologized for.
And I think the other thing with that is, I was in a session with Bishop Jakes a few years ago, and he said something that was so profound to me, which was, a lot of times we're waiting for an apology that we may never get.
That's it. Or it may
That's
never
very
be
true.
said the way that we think we need it to be said.
It may never be said the way you want to be said, and they may never even acknowledge it. It's just, hey, whatever. And so, that in and of itself, as hard as it is so freeing, though. Because sometimes it just may never come. It may never.
But you've got to find a place and a time to be okay with that.
It would happen over time.
Comes,
It would happen
yes.
over time. It does happen over time to where it may never come. And, strength of God, you'll be able to heal from that and build on that and keep going, and going with your life. I think that's just with a lot of things. I mean, one thing, talking about relationships with family and everything, I know sometimes it does matriculate into our relationships, our romantic relationships, or whatever
Yes.
the case is. It definitely plays a big part in that. I think when shaping us as adults, as we become adults or become older adults or seasoned adults, as some people say, but as we become that, sometimes we may never get that apology. Sometimes we just may never get it. We may never get that space to say I'm sorry. We may never get that space to hear I'm sorry. They may never come to us and do that. And I'm certain all of us in this room and people listening, I'm pretty sure you got something right now that you probably just have to swallow, take that on the chin, like I'm never going to get an apology for
Exactly.
That is
and
true.
I may never have to have that conversation. It's an unfortunate part of life, but it's okay because it does help you become stronger and it makes you a more well-rounded individual as far as you become an adult. It just makes you, and you will get healthy from it. You will become healthy. It doesn't have to cripple you. It doesn't have to cripple you.
I can agree with that. I feel like me and my dad are in a much better space. Now, we're not perfect, and some days it's tough. Some days it's really tough, but I feel like we're in a much better space. There was one point in time my dad has real bad heart issues. His heart stopped. They had to shock him. And his heart wasn't even strong enough for them to do surgery, etc. It was really bad, and everybody was like, "Is Dominique gonna come to the hospital since he's not married? It's Dominique's call. Is she coming to the hospital?" And I didn't go. Mm-hmm. I was very upset. I was very angry, and like I said, I am. Our relationship's not perfect, y'all. It's not because
It's
we're
a work
in that
in progress.
It is. And like I said, we're in that thing of where I'm trying to, you have to teach people how to treat you. So we're kind of in that space, but it's nowhere near to the point of where it was. Like I said, he had to be shocked, and I still would not go to the hospital. So that's just kind of for me.
I mean, it's an unfortunate thing that happens. I mean, no one can judge you for that either, right? No one can point a finger at you. Mine isn't perfect either, but no one can. But it's mine. You know what I mean? It's my relationship with my mom, my dad, and my brother. It's mine. And no matter what you may look at it from the outside, what you may think about it to be, or what you may try to put together with it, it's still mine. And so, Family is just one of those things.
Okay, well let me throw this one out there. When and as we all know, there are challenges to any relationship. You're gonna face challenging moments. There are things that are gonna happen, but it's a two-way street. Both individuals have to be willing to do the work. One person can't be willing to do all the work and think that they're going to have a viable, healthy relationship just from one person doing all the work.
Sounds like marriage.
You know, I'm leading into that. Thank you, Daryl, for the lead in. I'm leading into that. One of the things that I know, and I'm divorced, and one of the things that I learned, or I'll say it this way, when I was getting married, just before I got married, I asked my mother, what is the one bit of advice that she could give me to help me have a lasting relationship? And without a thought, without a blink of the eye, she immediately said, don't start doing nothing you ain't willing to continue doing.
Well, Jesus.
That was her advice to me. Don't start doing nothing that you're not willing to continue doing throughout the entire life of the relationship. And what that taught me was set your limitations and your boundaries to that relationship and talk about what the needs are from the individuals in the relationship. Because in my marriage, we didn't talk. Well, let me not say that. We did talk. We would have to go through a screaming and hollering match and get all ticked off, pissed off, all of that. And then when both of us was worn out with that, then we could sit down and talk.
But you know what? It's going to sound weird when I say it, but love is not enough.
No, it's not.
Love's not enough.
There's got to be friendship.
Yeah, love's not enough. If you
got to put in some work.
Yeah, well, I mean, you see people all the time. Oh, I love them, and they think that's just like that's not enough when it comes to a relationship.
No, Lord.
If you're gonna marry somebody just because you love them, I love a lot of people.
I mean, I'm gonna marry you.
Yeah. So love's not enough. That Jesus, it's just not enough. I've been married before. I've been divorced. I'm married now. Not getting married again because I'm not getting divorced again. But you know, I got divorced, and there was a lot I learned with that. Love is not enough. It's just not. There's so many things when it comes to a successful, healthy relationship. Being able to communicate, friendship, nurturing, patience, knowing when sometimes you just need to shut up, knowing sometimes you just need to go into your corner and give them that space. There's so many elements. Love's not enough, and it's amazing how many people. Because now marriage and relationships is just something to do. I mean they got TV shows, for God's sake, now. Married at first sight and stuff. People just get
Don't come at my show like that because I watch it faithfully. Don't come at my show like that because I watch it faithfully. Don't come at it.
I'm just saying, I'm not knocking ends because there's been some relationships I suppose that are still together behind all that stuff and everything, but it's just become something to do, and everybody thinks love is just enough, and it's not.
No, it's not. There has to be a level of commitment that is in there as well, because I also asked my mom, and I'm going to share this before we go to break. I asked my mother, I said, what was it that kept you and my dad married for so long? And she said, because we both refused to leave the relationship.
That's the one thing everybody always asks me, what is the one thing that changed for you when you got married? And I said, I could never tell her to go home anymore. Seriously. I could never tell her to go home. If we got in a spat, if we got in something we didn't disagree, and like I said, I love my wife. We really don't argue. Thank you, Jesus, because I'm not an arguing person. But we don't do that. But that was the one thing she asked me before. I said, I can't tell you to go home. I can't, because home is where we're standing at.
Exactly. It's where you are at that moment. So with that thought, we're going to take our next commercial break. This is Michelle with Girls Talk, Real Talk. With men in the room, when men and girls talk, you never know what can happen. So here we go with our commercial. Okay.
Shout out to Brandon
My
B.
mom-
Don't call me. I'm on the air.
My mom is on. Your grandmother's on.
Grandma's on.
She said, Mom says, love grows by degrees. The love you start out with is not the love that will maintain the relationship.
That's true.
When I tell you drops of wisdom just flows.
Yes.
Because both of you are growing. You're growing as people. You're growing as individuals. You're just growing, period. So you can't expect that person to stay the same. You can't expect the love to stay the same. You just can't expect that.
Same, that's a horrible individual.
Because they're not growing. They're not growing.
That's the problem.
They're not growing.
Something's wrong. You're not changing.
They're not growing.
Well, we change. And I often say this, and I don't think people always really pay attention. We're changing every day. The person that I am today is not the person I was on yesterday. The person I was 5 minutes ago is not the person that I am today. You grow, you evolve on a regular basis. Because let's face it, and I mean, I'm not going to get scientific and all of that, but if you begin to look at just who you are, your skin cells are regenerating all day, every day. And so after a week, you have completely regenerated all of your skin cells. So you don't even have the same cells on Monday that you had a week ago on Monday.
Right.
And so if that is the case of how we were made up, and I truly believe that God designed us that way, that we are always evolving. We are always growing. We are always growing into that person that we are destined, created, and purposed to be. Because I say this on every show, and so today's not going to be any different. We were all created on purpose for a purpose.
Yeah.
None of us were accidents. It may not have been my mama and daddy's plan, but it was always God's plan, or I wouldn't have never been here. Because if you think about it, how much had to happen in the universe to get your mother and father together at just the right time, at just the right place, in order for you to be a product of that union.
Isaac Hayes, hot buttered. That's all that was.
I was born in November, so something happened on Valentine's Day. Something happened on Valentine's Day at the house. Something happened at Valentine's Day.
I was born in July.
I was a product.
Yeah.
I was a product of Valentine's Day. And my birthday is the 7th, so it was around that time for me.
Christmas fall now, I'm thinking somewhere around spring, fall, summer, fall, change somewhere in there.
Well, you know what? One of the things, and you sit back, because when Daryl's father, my brother, was dating his mother, everybody thought they were brother and sister. I used to call them the light bright couple.
Ugh, that's creepy.
It is. Y'all should have seen my face.
With this subject.
And that's only because they look alike. Something's wrong with
Y'all should see Daryl's face right now.
One of the things that, and even this, and I've heard people that have been married for, my mother said, remember, loving Christ is so different from love outside of Christ. You're right, Mom.
Go there.
You're right.
Okay.
Totally different.
There's Eros.
Yes.
Why are you looking at me?
Okay, you gotta see Brother
Daryl's
Man
face.
I'm sorry.
Because Daryl felt it and he said it like he felt
I'm in
it.
Bible study mode real quick. That's all. I'm all right.
So one of the things that I think we really have to look at is, are we loving that person for who they are? Or are we loving that person for who we think they have the potential of becoming?
But that's just it. Can you really love somebody for who they are? Because they change, they evolve, they grow. There's just some things that, much as we, I mean, so what's the one thing everybody's, really always talk about is getting older, right? Nobody wants to get older. But you can't go out here, it's just like we watch basketball, and you watch these guys, I'm not a fan, but LeBron James, right? He's been in the league 16 years. When he first started, he's not the same guy physically he is now. Yeah, he's still playing the game, but that running around, jumping out the gym stuff, knees start to hurt a little bit, so you can't do
Back
what
start
you
hurting a little bit.
Yeah.
Anybody with me needs to know my knees are bad already. So if you are not prepared to put icy hot on my knees and ice them down, especially when it's cold outside, baby, we can't be together, okay? I need all the men. See, a lot of men be adding me on social media, so I'm gonna give y'all some tea. If you can't put icy hot on these knees, baby, don't even hit my inbox, okay? Don't hit my inbox.
My mama is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll be you. I'll be you.
I'm serious. All the men on my page, just know that
So,
if
I
you
felt
can't
that
ice my
one.
knees down, then we can't talk,
That's just
honey.
reality.
That's
I
the
mean,
reality.
They are, because who I am today, I ain't gonna be. I may not be in a year. I may break a leg. Who knows what happens?
Okay, here we go.
But I can't. You shut up.
Mike's
Can't swing around like
This
you
is
used to.
Michelle with Daryl and Dominique, and we're back again with another session of Girls Talk Real Talk.
And the dude.
And a dude, because when girls and the dude talk, just about anything can happen. I have been sitting here on the break, and I know everybody in Radio Land was listening to the commercials and the music and all of that, but I must admit, one of the reasons why I enjoy these two is because there's never a dull moment.
It's not.
There's never a dull moment. And one of the things that we have to begin to realize is that even though I am much older than both of them, we can learn stuff from each other.
Yeah.
Different people bring different things to the table. And it's the same thing in our family relationships and our friendships and all of that. Different people bring different things to the table. Because I don't necessarily want somebody exactly like me around me all the time.
Jesus.
I don't think that would be...
I think I'm quite pleasantable to be around all the time.
Take two of you.
No,
Oh.
not two of you.
Oh, I'm
No.
sitting right here, y'all.
Well,
Hey, I don't want to. It can't be two of me running around. No Lord.
Lord knows there can't be two of me.
I mean, God knew what he was doing with one. Could you imagine? Bam, two of them.
Uh-uh.
Could you imagine two of
No.
them? Bam.
No. So let's get back to the romantic relationships, because we talked about familial, and we think about that in what direction that we're going in. So, Daryl, I know that you are married
Yes.
to my wonderful niece, Tamika,
Yes.
and she is a
Hey,
joy,
baby.
and she is quite... I have said this to her, that she has to be a very special woman to catch that one
Ooh.
over there. Because
The
I was
pickiness is real.
with him
Yes.
during the last fiasco,
Hey. You gonna leave
and we'll leave that at that.
Hey.
But as he said, you learn from everything. Even my divorce, I have to admit, I learned a lot from that. A lot about myself, a lot about the type of man that I want in my life, a lot about the direction that I'm going in my life, and I learned a lot about limitations and boundaries. Because I don't care who you are, what type of relationship that you may be in, you've got to set some limitations and some boundaries. You have to know what you're willing to deal with and what you're not willing to deal with. And stepping into a situation with a relationship with somebody else and anything goes, it's not a good idea.
Not at all.
Well, I mean,
It'll
It's-
cause problems
it
in the long
will.
run. It'll
it's
cause a lot of
2018
problems in the
though,
long
you
run.
know, so you got different types of
Relationships.
relationships. So want to make sure we acknowledge those out there. No shade, no hate, none of that stuff. Just saying. Because nowadays monogamy is not looked at as a natural state.
No, it's not. But I don't care what type of relationship. If you're in a romantic relationship with somebody, you still have to know what you're willing to deal with and what you're not willing to deal with.
Absolutely.
And I learned that from my marriage. So that when I started dating again and people started showing me who they were, because let's be honest, when people first get in relationship with you, they don't show you who they really
It's
are.
the representative. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the shiniest car. It's the best dress. It's the best suit. It's the best shoes. It's the best haircut. It's all that. And I mean, it's a joke, but it's the truth. Until you see her in her bonnet, it ain't real.
Not the
So what
body.
is the name of that movie where the girl pulled her leg off?
I'm gonna get you sucker. I'll never forget that. Hey, the package was impressive, but boy, when it came,
When she started and see,
Hey.
this is the other thing.
getting catfished.
We have to be real careful. You are silly.
We had this conversation on my show. We did.
You have to be real careful
Catfishing folk.
because we are of a society of social media. We are on social media like we used to watch cartoons.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
It
And
is.
one of the things that I have noticed, and I flipped through my timeline, and Lord knows I probably should stop and read some stuff, but I get so much stuff on my timeline that I don't have time to read it all. But I do see the makeup tutorials that be popping up
Yeah.
and what they look like before the
That's
makeup
two different people.
and what they look like after the makeup.
Two different people.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna let y'all say that because don't blow my inbox up, y'all.
Oh,
one of the things that I'm concerned about is the makeup indicative of the person that you're presenting to the world? And I say that for this very reason. Because some people use the makeup to hide behind. So that you'll never really know who the real person is. But some people use the makeup to hide flaws. Real flaws that they are still learning to come to grips with. Or because people can be mean and rude and they stare. If they see a flaw that's not a normal flaw that they're used to seeing, they'll stare and make you feel some kind of way.
But I know some women who were, what you would, I guess to the standards of most people would consider beautiful women without makeup, who just don't wear makeup though.
Right.
So, I mean, nowadays,
But the makeup is enhancing. It's not.
thank you. It should
No,
not
I
change
mean,
who
it's
you
not
look.
changing what
It
they
should
look
not
like.
change what you look like
I
on
don't
your
know. I
personal
mean,
time.
I don't know. I'll stay out of that argument a long time ago because I know there are guys who just don't want a woman with a bunch of makeup on, and I understand that there are some women.
Why you look at me for, Michelle? What you trying to say? Ooh. It's some
You're out
shame.
here, doing the whole techniques and training.
Michelle's staring
trade
at me. Y'all need to
secrets and
see
stuff
it.
like that. Whatever. I don't know.
Well, I brought that
I
up
get it.
because,
Just don't be hating on the dude when he come to you with a
well, you know what?
lace front.
You know what?
Don't do it.
I'm going
Don't
there.
do it.
Don't do it.
Do
not
not good man that
do it.
because he may have to feel good about himself. Who cares if he wants
Don't
to get
do
him a
it.
360 install on his head?
Don't
There's nothing
do
wrong
it.
with that.
Don't do it. Now, this is my thing.
I got y'all back, brothers. For
I'm
those of you who are follically challenged, I got
They're
you back.
follically
I'm
challenged.
trying to
They're-
stop laughing.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Follically challenged.
Hey, there's some brothers out here who go through some follicle challenges in their early 20s.
Well, let me tell you something.
And they want to make
There
sure
is
because
nothing wrong with having a bald head. Okay?
Just pick a
Whether-
side. Pick a
whether-
side.
If he gets the installation, y'all leave that man
Whether
alone.
I'm saying this from my own perspective because my dad was bald headed.
I'm sorry.
He had a bald spot in his head. My brother has a bald spot in his head, and he just opts to shave all of his hair off. But I don't see, because I guess I grew up with it. I don't see a problem with it. These two.
Daryl
over here.
is
Because let me put this out here, and oh my God, if Derek watches this, he is going to have a whole issue with his auntie. We got into this whole conversation about that over Thanksgiving, did we not? Okay, because they were hating on Daryl, and let me show you why they were hating on Daryl. You
got
see
locks.
all of that hair?
I got locks. I got a lot here.
He's the only one that has all of that hair.
Oh, Daryl, they came for you. Oh, no.
And so
Somebody gotta hold it down.
So the thing of it is whatever it is that you have, whatever represents who you are, be comfortable in your own skin. Because if you're not comfortable in your own skin, how do you expect somebody else to be comfortable with you?
Hold on. Athena just said, if we have to love follically challenged men, then y'all gotta love bald head women.
Hey, some of
You
that's
know what?
Cute. Some of that's really cute. Though.
You know
For real.
what?
Some of the ladies is out here
Okay.
repping it really nice with the
Mama,
long
what are you
haircut, real
talking
talk.
about? Not a bald head, not a bald spot, but a bald head. Are you talking about my daddy?
But some of the ladies are repping it with the haircut. They doing it right. It's different strokes for different folks. Everybody got, get where they fit in. I think this is one of those in couple relationships, some people like thin, some people like a little heavier. It just depends. I mean, but when it comes to relationships, like I said, love ain't enough.
Well,
gotta work.
I have to say that once again, this has been a very entertaining
part 3
conversation because this right here. And Daryl wanting to talk about these installations
and this
airbrushing and all of that is just not gonna work. But that has been only to turn around and draw them back on. See, I'm gonna have to bring.
I'm sick of that. Now I'm sick of that. I'm sick of the eyebrows.
Conversation about this.
I am tired of eyebrows.
I don't like the fact that you cut them off and then you draw them back on. I don't understand. But I gotta go. Because that's the end of the show. Only for Daryl to bring up a whole nother topic that we're going to have to pick up the next time.
I'm done.
Thanks so much for watching, for listening. Girls Talk Real Talk with the dude. Because when girls talk and the dude,
that's right,
anything can happen. So tune back in with us again next week. Same day, same time, different topic. But we will be back here next Thursday, 6:30 to 7:30, talking about another Girls Talk, Real Talk topic. We'll check you out on the flip side. We'll see you later. Bye.
All right, my Facebook people. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. I'm trying to put in my plug and you.
My bad. Sorry.
Okay, y'all. Hey, y'all gotta tune in next Wednesday and Thursday. On Wednesday, our first woman crush is Sonia Cook, and she is amazing. You guys are really gonna love that show. And then Thursday is where the heathery is going to take place. We are going to talk about what makes a woman a freak. It is going to be a battle of the sexes type setup. We have Mark B, Lady J, Marvin Taylor, Kat Sereno. We have a whole bunch of people coming to that one. And it is going to be a whole bunch of shenanigans. It is going to be a bunch of shenanigans. The guys, TJ and Marvin, have been showing out already, okay? So the guys are ready to come and act a fool. So, to the point where I think I have to give the guys a dress code. They already acting up, y'all. Y'all just pray for me. But make sure y'all tune in next week, Wednesday and Thursday from 6 to 7:30. I'll post a flyer. Make sure y'all tune in. See y'all later.
Okay, Daryl, one more